All right, so I am back from training on high altitude and I feel like I'm ready for one of the hardest challenges known to man. Is it a marathon, you say? A triathlon? I wish. This is the Jazz Vinyl Tag from Tunes from the Man Cave. So hey there friends, and welcome back to Sonic Safari, a channel featuring tales of record collecting. I'm your host Marcus, a Swedish hipster lost in the fog in San Francisco. So I've been watching Chris from Tunes from the Man Cave forever now, and he's just such a great inspiration when it comes to jazz records. I just want to say thank you for everything you do for the vinyl community, and I'm more than happy to take part of this year's Jazz Vinyl Tag. But before we start, please like and subscribe. It helps me more than you think. All right, and off we go. So for the best jazz pickup of last year, I decided to take this one. This is Jamaican saxophonist Joe Harriott's Southern Horizons. And this is an OG from 1960 on Jazzland. So why did I pick this one? Well, I feel like it's easy to get caught up in American jazz for obvious reason, but there is a lot of incredible records out there, and especially from England. And I think it's kind of funny that they made it very clear where this one is from, but this is an amazing record. I'm very happy to have this one. And for best reissue, it's getting harder and harder because it is truly the golden age of reissues, isn't it? But I decided to take this one. Lee Morgan is one of my absolute favorite jazz artists, and this is Take 12, originally released in 1962 on Jazzland, and this is the Vinyl Me Please reissue, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. And this was recorded only 2 years before Sidewinder, which a lot of people agree is one of the best jazz recordings ever, and you could definitely feel him building up towards this one. So super happy to have this one. So for my favorite new release, I decided on this one, Art Blakey's First Flight to Japan, which was recorded during his first tour of Japan with an absolutely insane lineup of Lee Morgan, Wayne Shorter, and Bobby Timmons. And to be honest, I didn't have tons of expectations when I picked this one up, but it sounds absolutely fantastic, and it's just so energetic. It sounds like the people on this recording is just having the time of their life. And it's really like a love letter between Japan and Art Blakey. And it comes with this cool gatefold. And as for my favorite saxophone session today, would be this one, Glass Bead Games. And this is Clifford Jordan Quintet, originally released in 1973 on Strata East. And this is the 2019 Pure Pleasure reissue. And I think this one is the perfect record if you're looking for jazz that is pushing the envelope a bit without getting into too free and crazy jazz. A really amazing session. So for my favorite trumpet session, I think that's a tough one because trumpet is by far my favorite instrument, and there's so many incredible artists, Lee Morgan, Miles Davis, and Thad Jones, just to mention a few. So today I decided on this one. This is Freddie Hubbard's Open Sesame, and this is the Music Matter Jazz issue from 2009, and it still has that crack in it when you open it, and this is number 971. So I am by no means an audiophile, but this does sound absolutely fantastic, and it's such a beautiful session, so just very happy to have this one. And then my favorite guitar session, I guess, is kind of the opposite. Guitar is not my favorite, but I do have a couple, so I decided on this one, John Jenkins with Kenny Burrell, and this is a Japanese reissue from 1984. It's almost in mint condition apart from that cut corner right there, but I absolutely love the cover, and I guess this could have also been an entry for artists that could get a bit more attention, because I think John Jenkins is absolutely fantastic. So this one is a great one. Okay, so let's talk about piano, and piano is also a tough one. There's a lot of amazing sessions, so this is by no means definitive, but today I felt like this one. This is Herbie Nichols Trio, and this is a Japanese reissue from 1983 in an almost mint condition. Again, we have that cut corner, about a beautiful copy. And first of all, I just love this cover. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's interesting that Reed Miles actually has his name on it. I don't know if he did that on many of his albums. And the music is also amazing, very swinging. Max Roach is on this session, and you can tell. So this is an amazing one if you haven't listened to it yet. As for organs, well, organ is a complicated instrument to me, and I think that it kind of has a tendency to become too much. There's very few times that I feel I can listen to an entire session of organ, but I decided on this one. This is Larry Young's Unity, and of course an absolutely amazing cover. And I think this is also one of those records that pushes the limits a bit, kind of flirting with free jazz without getting into it too much. But an amazing session, and I love the rendition of Monk's Dream on this one. So for a trombone session, that's easy and hard at the same time. Hard because I don't really love the trombone, but easy because I don't have that many records to pick from. But this one is actually a great album, J.J. Johnson's The Eminent J.J. Johnson Volume 1, which is actually 2 sessions on one record. And this is a reissue from 1989. And the lineup is amazing. Charles Mingus and Clifford Brown is on here. And I think part of why I love it is I would define it more as a horn session than a trombone session. So it doesn't get too trombone-y, let's say, but yeah, an amazing record. And when it comes to a funk jazz album, this is also something that I don't listen tons to, but I do really enjoy this one. This is The Kings of Jazz, which is a compilation made by Gilles, Peterson, and Jazzanova, which is a DJ collective from Berlin in Germany, and this was released in 2006. And this is really a celebration of jazz, funk, and soul. And given that it's DJs that have picked the songs, all of them are very much picked to be out on the dance floor. So an amazing record, and I mean, just look at that cover, absolutely fantastic. And there is a volume 2 of this as well. And then a jazz fusion record, also something that I don't listen to too much, but I decided on this one, Placebo's Live 1971. And Placebo, the rock alternative group, was actually one of my favorite bands when I was a teenager, but this obviously is very different. This was released on We Release Jazz in 2009. And it is actually amazing jazz rock fusion. And if you don't want me to buy a record, you would tell me that is rock jazz fusion. But this actually really works. It's a fantastic album. All right, guys, halfway, I feel okay. A good pace, starting to feel a bit dehydrated, but in good spirits to finish. So moving on to an underappreciated album. This might be more of an unknown, but I decided on picking this one, which is Swedish pianist John Johansson's Jazz in Swedish. And this is the most sold jazz album ever in Sweden, and for good reasons. If you ask me, he makes interpretations of folk songs, traditional folk songs, in a very melancholic mood. And this one is absolutely fantastic. Reissue from 2005. So if you want to jump into Nordic jazz, this is definitely where to start. And he unfortunately passed away way too soon in a car accident. And in our quest to promote Swedish jazz for the best live album, I decided to pick this one, which is Jazz at the Pawnshop. And this is recorded at a jazz club called Stampen, but it used to be a pawn shop, so that's why it's called like that. And this is by many considered to be one of the best audiophile jazz recordings ever. I would say that the music is okay, it's not fantastic, but it is true that the sound is absolutely fantastic, so it's well worth checking out. So as for a supergroup, I'm not really sure how you define one, but I decided to pick this one. This is The Cats with Tommy Flanagan, John Coltrane, and Kenny Burrell, amongst others. So I guess that is a supergroup, at least to me. And this is an OJC from 1983. And I think what stands out about this record, apart from, of course, sounding amazing, is that how do you actually file this under what artists? So right now I have it under C for Cats, but yeah, let me know in the comments below how to do that. And then as for a session with a great sideman, I picked this one. This is Red Garland Quintet with John Coltrane, Dig It. And this is a Japanese reissue from 1977 on that amazing Prestige logo. So yeah, I absolutely love Red Garland, and I think it's interesting that it's hard to find his records out in the wild. It's not that they're necessarily expensive, it's just that they're hard to find. So very happy to have this one. Okay, so as for an album that more people should know about, I did mention in the beginning that it's easy to focus on American jazz because in the end the US is the cradle of the art form, but of course there's a bunch of really good jazz out there in the world. So my recommendation would be these compilations. These are called A New Life, and here we have volume 1 and this is volume 2. So this is more obscure and rare jazz from Great Britain, and they're absolutely fantastic, and I would start with volume 2 if I were you. As for an artist that should get a bit more love, I decided on Lee Kunitz. I've always really enjoyed his music, the saxophonists, and this is Inside Hi-Fi on Atlantic, which is a great album with a terrible cover. So yeah, this is a pure pleasure reissue from 2018. So yeah, this is someone I think should get a bit more love in the VC community. All right, so as for a vocal session, I picked this one. This is Sarah Vaughan's, that Mr. Kelly, an original from 1958, and I just love that Mr. Kelly logo on the back. And I absolutely adore Sarah Vaughan. I think she has an amazing ability to communicate emotion through her voice, but can also get a bit too much, too sad really, which is why I really love this record, because it's just a really positive vibe. They seem to be having a great time and kind of joking around on stage, so it just shows a very different side of her, which I really love. So this one is very worthwhile checking out. As for a record that people don't talk about but that I love, well, I don't really know what people talk about, to be honest, but I do love this one. This is Eastern Rebellion with Cedar Walton and George Coleman, amongst other, and this is the first release on the Dutch label Timeless. An amazing record, just very solid, and I just love that cover. It's so simple but impactful. This is volume 1 out of 4, so very worthwhile checking out. And then last but not least, a record that I would love to pick up, and there's only like a million on that list, but it is true that I've got into the Japanese jazz label Three Blind Mice, and I picked this one up. This is Blow Up by Isao Suzuki Trio. Sounds absolutely fantastic, and they have another record called Orpheus that I would love to have an amazing cover and a session. And I really love how nerdy they are at this label, that they even put a picture of how they were standing in the recording studio. But yeah, really any recordings from Three Blind Mice I would love to pick up. All right guys, only 2 to go. I think I'm starting to see double. I can't feel my legs and my throat is so very dry, but we're so close. Let's just keep on going. New reissue I'm looking forward to. Well, I started listening to jazz when we were expecting our first child. This is when we were living back in Madrid in Spain, and down the street there was a restaurant that played jazz all the time. So I asked them what it was, and it was Chet Baker. So Chet Baker has always been very important to me for sentimental reasons. So I am very much looking forward to the Tone Poet release of Chet Baker and Art Pepper, Pictures of Heath, even though I wish that they used the alternate cover of that crazy lady, if you've seen that one. And then last but not least, My House is on Fire. What record do I pick? And first of all, knock on wood, I hope that never happens. And if it does, I have a feeling that my mind might be somewhere else than my jazz collection. But I guess I would pick this one. This is Chet Baker Sings. This is the Tone Poet release, for one simple reason. This is my kid's favorite record, and we tend to listen to it before going to bed. So this one would stay. All right. I can't believe it. We made it. Thank you so much, Chris from Tunes from the Man Cave. All right, friends, that's it for today's episode. Please like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. On the next episode, I want to talk about where and how I buy my vinyl records. Until then, tack och adjö.